Hello everyone, this is Stephen Balch, your instructor for Introduction to Microeconomics at Ozarka College. Today what I'm going to do is give you a little bit of feedback on the chapters 3 and 4 activities that I finished grading this morning. And then I'm going to actually go over some of the problems that some of you had difficulties with on the chapters 3 and 4 activities. And then I'm going to tell you what we've got coming up due for our next set of chapter activities for chapters 5 and 6. Alright, so the first thing is, like I said, I did finish grading the chapters 3 and 4 activities this morning. Most of you did well on those. There were a few of the problems on the assignment, like I said just a minute ago, that a few of you had difficulties with. But overall, most of you did well. And I really appreciate the time and effort that you're putting in. So keep up the good work on that. I really appreciate it. Go ahead and look, if you haven't already, look at your grades for the chapters 3 and 4 activities and let me know if you have any questions at all. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. There were a few of you who had difficulties with the question that asked you about demand and quantity demanded. Some of you had some problems explaining the relationship between demand and quantity demanded and what a change in quantity demanded looks like on a graph and what a change in demand looks like on a graph and what variables can actually cause those changes. So I did have to count some points off for some of you on that if you didn't explain all of those particular things that I specified on the question, on the assignment. And I did actually create a review video that covers demand and quantity demanded. It's the very first item under week 4 on the activities page. I've also posted it on the announcements page as well. So if you did have some problems understanding the relationship between demand and quantity demanded, go ahead and watch that video. Hopefully that will clear things up for you. If you still have questions after watching the video, just let me know and I'll be glad to help you understand that if you need that. Okay? But hopefully the video will help you on that. And even those of you that got all the points for that particular question on the assignment, it would probably benefit you to watch that review video to get ready for the exam. So, and like I said in the last video, these chapters 3 and 4 that we just covered, especially chapter 4 that covers demand and supply and markets and market price and so forth, these are concepts that you're going to really need to get a grasp of. You're going to need to really understand it because this is going to lay the foundation or the framework for everything else that we'll do this semester. So if you don't understand the basic concepts of demand and quantity demanded and supply and quantity supplied and how the two interact to create market prices, then you're really going to have difficulty the rest of the semester. So this is a point where you really need to understand those basic concepts. Like I said, if you have questions after watching the video, just let me know, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have. Now, there were also some of you that had difficulties with the problems, specifically problem 3.11 and 4.4, which were taken from the textbook. All right, so I'm going to take a few minutes. I've got some slides here that show the correct answers for these problems that I thought would help those of you that had some issues with getting the correct calculated values. Now on problem 3.11 on page 64, it basically gave you some income values and some taxes associated with those incomes, and it wanted you to calculate the tax rate for each of those and also the marginal tax rate. And then it also, one of the questions on there had you tell me whether this was a progressive tax system, a regressive tax system, or proportional. Okay, so basically in this table here that I'm showing you, it shows what calculations you should have made. So to get the tax rate, you would just take the taxes over the income, and for that first one, it would be 20%. Just $200 over $1,000, which would be 20%. Then on the second one, it was $350 divided by $2,000 income, which would be 17.5%. And then on the third income, which is $3,000, it was $450 in taxes. So it's just a ratio. You just take $450, which is the taxes, over the income, $3,000, and that gives you a 15% tax rate. Now, looking at this tax rate, as we move from $1,000 of income to $2,000 to $3,000, we can see that our tax rates are going down as our income increases, which means that it's a regressive tax. Okay, if the tax rates went up as we increased in income, that would be a progressive tax. If the tax rates were all the same, that would be proportional or a flat tax. Okay, now another thing it wanted you to do on this particular problem was calculate the marginal tax rate. Remember, marginal values are basically the change in values as we move from one, in this case, one income to another. So on the very first one, the marginal tax rate is going to be the same as the regular tax rate, the average tax rate, because we're moving from basically 0 to 1,000. So it would just be $200 minus 0, which is our taxes before, over 1,000, which is our income now, minus what it was before, which was 0. So that on that first one, the marginal tax rate is going to be the same as your average tax rate. Okay. Now on the second one, it's going to be different. So again, all you do is you take what your tax rate is now minus what it was before. So in other words, 350 minus 200, which is 150, over $2,000 income minus what it was before, which was 1,000. So it's 150 over 1,000, which is 15%. And then on this last one, it will be, again, what our taxes are now, 450 minus what they were with the previous income. So it'll be 450 minus 350, which is $100, over $3,000 income now minus the $2,000 before. So it's $100 over $1,000, which is 10%. Okay, so that's how that's calculated. A lot of you got that correct, but you didn't show your answers. Okay, or you didn't show your calculations. I'm sorry. And on the instructions for the assignment, it clearly stated that you need to show your calculations. So even if you got all the answers correct, if you didn't show your calculations, I did count some points off for that. So in the future, when it says to show your calculations, make sure that you actually show your calculations on your assignment. Okay? I want to make sure that you understand how to actually calculate these various formulas and calculations that we do during the course of the semester. If you just give me the final answer, then I'm not really sure whether you did it correctly or not. You may have gotten the correct answer, but you may have gone about it in the wrong way. So I need to make sure by looking at your calculations that you're actually using the right method to get the correct answer. Okay? All right. If you have any questions about that, just let me know. And then on the other problem, this is the solution to problem 4.4 on page 84. Now, most of you got this correct. And on this one, some of you showed your calculations, some of you didn't. On this one, because it was very, very simple math, it was just subtracting numbers, very, single-digit numbers, and getting a value. I didn't count points off on this particular one if you didn't show your calculations, because a lot of you could probably do it in your head. But I did have that stipulated on the assignment, but on this one I kind of was a little bit more flexible on it if you didn't show your calculations, simply because they were very, very simple calculations. All right, so on this one, what it wanted you to do, it gave you a graph showing a demand curve and a supply curve, and it basically at various prices, it wanted you to tell me whether there's a shortage or a surplus in the market and how big it is. Okay, so for the first one, it said if the price is $8, is there a shortage or a surplus, and how big is it? Well, if the price is $8, which is right here, the quantity demanded is 2, and the quantity supplied is 8. So you would take 8 minus 2, which is 6, and since quantity supplied is, in this case, greater than quantity demanded, we will have a surplus of 6. Okay? Now, on the second one, it said if the price is $6, basically give us the same information. So, in other words, is there a shortage or a surplus, and how big is it? So, on that one, the quantity demanded would be 4. Quantity supplied is 6 at a $6 price here. And then if you take 6 minus 4, that's 2. So there's a surplus of 2 if the price is $6. Then the third part of this problem asked you if the price is $5. Is there a shortage or a surplus, and how big is it? Well, in this case, at a price of $5, that is actually the equilibrium point. So there is no surplus or shortage, and the way you would calculate that is the price. The quantity demanded and quantity supplied are both 5, and so you would take 5 minus 5, which would be 0. So that means there is no surplus or shortage. That is what we call the equilibrium point in economics. Okay, all right, and then the D portion, or D part of that question, asked you if the price is $4, is there a shortage or a surplus, and how big is it? Well, at a price of $4 right here, it would be quantity demanded is 6, quantity supplied is 4. So take 6 minus 4 is 2. Now, in this case, though, the quantity demanded is greater than the quantity supplied. So we know we have a shortage, and the shortage is equal to 2, which again is calculated by just taking 6 minus 4, which is 2. All right, and then the last part of the question, part E, asked you if the price is $3, what's the shortage or surplus? All right. Well, in this case, at a price of $3 down here, the quantity demanded is 7, and the quantity supplied is 3. So if you take 7 minus 3, that would give you 4, and that's the shortage. So there is a shortage because quantity demanded, in this case, is greater than quantity supplied. So that's basically how you would calculate all of those items for that problem 4.4 in the textbook. All right, let me get back to my Ozarka here. All right, so like I said, look at your grades for the assignment and read the grading comments. I tried to be very specific on what I was counting points off for, if I did have to count any points off. But if you have questions after reading the grading comments, just let me know. And like I said, I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have. Now, the discussion that we had for chapters 3 and 4 that dealt with the market for professional basketball, I thought that went very well. I really appreciate everyone's participation on the discussion. So keep up the good work on that. I really enjoyed reading everyone's comments. Hopefully you learned something from that. The discussions are basically meant to kind of take the concepts that we're learning about in the textbook, in the course, and kind of look at a real-world example of how demand and supply, in this case, work in that type of market. Okay? All right. So, and then the chapters 3 and 4 test, most of you did well on that. Just as a reminder, you can take those tests as many times as you want to up until the due date. So just kind of keep that in mind for the future chapter tests. All right. And that brings us to what we've got coming up due next. So under week 4, which is next week, we don't have anything else due this week, but we do have work due kind of towards the end of next week. So you've got about a week basically to work on the chapters 5 and 6 activities. Okay, and those are due by basically a week from today, Thursday, September 11th. All right, and so you've got the assignment, test, and discussion all due on September 11th. Now, chapter 5 covers elasticity of demand and supply. So in chapter 4, we looked at the concepts of, or the laws of demand and supply, and how those come together to create market prices and market quantities. In chapter 5, we're basically going to look at, kind of take that a step further and look at how much, for example, how much quantity demanded changes when price changes. We know that there's an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. That's what we learned with the law of demand in chapter 4. Also on the supply side, we know that quantity supplied is positively or directly related to price. So as price increases, quantity supplied increases. But we haven't really looked at yet, how much they're going to change. We know they're going to change in what direction, but we haven't really looked at how much they'll change. Some goods will have face what's called an elastic demand, which means that the demand is very responsive. The quantity demanded is very responsive to price changes. Other goods have an inelastic demand, which means that quantity demanded is not going to go down as much when price increases. Okay, so you'll learn about the different types of elasticity of demand and supply in chapter 5. And again, another name for elasticity is just responsiveness. You know, as a business that's trying to make business decisions as far as how much to produce and how much labor to employ and so forth, it's not only do we need to understand the law of demand and supply, but we need to understand how responsive the consumer is going to be to price changes. Okay? All right. Then chapter 6 deals with government policies and welfare economics. Okay? So just be working on chapters 5 and 6. And like I said, let me know if you have any questions at all. Don't wait until Thursday of next week to get started on this. These assignments do take some time. So, give yourself plenty of time. Go ahead and start on it now, and then you can finish it up next week. And give yourself plenty of time. Make sure that you're using all the available resources. You've got the PowerPoint slides that I posted on the assignment page. You've got, of course, your textbook. You've got the videos that I provided. So make use of all those resources. Okay? Like I said, if you have questions as you're working on those activities, just let me know. And other than that, enjoy your weekend, and I will talk to you again sometime probably late next week. Thank you.